how you like it, yeah.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the We Don't Know TV podcast. My name is Leaf. I am your host. This is a podcast where we watch the first episode of a show and then we talk about it. My allergies are killing me today, so if I sound all nasally, that is why I sound all weird. But we are talking about Batman, the Caped Crusader. If you haven't heard about this one, it's basically like, what if they'd made Batman the animated series, but like nowadays? The weird thing about this is, if you're not like in the know about like all the companies and streaming services and stuff like that, is that Batman and like DC characters are owned by Warner Brothers, so technically they're under like HBO, or what we would just call Max now. But for some reason, this show ended up on, or getting picked up by Amazon, so it's actually on Prime if you want to watch it. So if you're a big nerd, that would just seem weird to like find, you know, Batman on Prime and then every other Batman thing on Max. So it's very odd. But the premise on IMDb states, after a family tragedy, affluent philanthropist Bruce Wayne transforms into the Batman, where his crusade for justice spawns unforeseen ramifications. Something about this summary bothers me. I think it's just the fact that like we all know who Batman is, so having this little blurb be like, you've never heard of Batman, is like, I assume they're trying to write it out for like people, like the kids that are growing up that might watch this. But I just feel like everyone knows who Batman is, and we have so much Batman stuff that's like, I feel like I wrote something else. I don't know, whatever. I'm not gonna waste too much time on it. If it is your first time here, I go through the plot beat by beat. That way you don't have to, and that way I don't forget anything. So we start off with the interrogation of Clarence. Someone's sharing secrets with this guy named Rupert Thorne. And of course Clarence is like, yo, it wasn't me. And Iggy's like, listen, man, I believe you, but I don't think the boss believes you. In fact, the boss wants a word. And this is where we see the silhouette of Penguin. So it's like, all right, cool. First episode, villain is Penguin. I like the new version of the old art style. Like, it again looks like Batman the animated series, but made now. So it has that same feel, but like, you know, like update, like almost like they HD redid like the old animated show, right? As if it's brand new for the most part. We'll get there. But we move on to a warehouse. We see some guys move some stuff into some trucks. They're moving stuff for Rupert Thorne. So again, already like 30 seconds in, we're hearing this guy's name twice. One guy is in a rush. He's like, we got to get out of here. And the other guy's like, why are you rushing? Half the cops are on the payroll. I mean, it's Gotham, baby. You can't trust nobody. And the guy's like, I'm not worried about the cops. I'm worried about Batman. And the other guy's like, you know, that story's bull, like Batman isn't real. And the guy's like, didn't you hear about Marvin? And he's like, well, Marvin's in the hospital. And he's like, who you think put him in the hospital? So again, we're getting very early Batman, like year one vibes. Like, he's still kind of a mystery. So I kind of like that this isn't fully established. And I'll bring up why I like this more later in the episode, but I kind of like that this isn't again, a Batman that's been doing this for a while. It seems like he's still pretty new. So Batman shows up, throws some smoke, starts throwing hands. He's kicking ass, obviously. And this is where I have one small issue with the beginning of this episode. So one guy lines up his gun, takes a shot, and instead of hitting Batman, he hits the other guy. And this show isn't mature enough to like show blood, which is fine. But instead of the guy like jolting back, like, oh, I got shot, right? He just puts his hand over his heart and he just kind of falls down. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put the clip. But yeah, he just kind of falls over and it's just kind of like, it didn't have like the oomph of like, oh my god, I got shot. It was just kind of like, oh, ouchies. And I was like, what the? So I wondered if that would have been too much for the rating or what. But I feel like you could have him like kind of, you know, jolt back a little bit. Like he just got shot. You know what I mean? The other guy who shot the gun runs away. Batman gets to him, knocks him out, and the warehouse explodes. We then get into the intro for this show. So it's not, again, the animated series. What I love about this intro, it has the full-on noir look. Like, it is very black and white. It is Batman kind of like stalking around. Like, this is way more of like, hey, Batman is a detective, all right? He's not just a crime fighter. Like, I feel like the other, like the original animated series intro was more of, right? This is like he's in the shadows. He's going through the files, right? Batman is a detective. So we go to Wayne Manor. We find out, Batman is talking to Alfred. We find out that there have been 3 explosions in 2 weeks. All of these explosions have been for shadow companies, and all those companies have been owned by, again, Rupert Thorne. So this guy is a big part of Gotham. And Alfred is chubby. And I was like, why the fuck is Alfred chubby? Listen, Alfred, you do what you want with your body, you know what I mean? But I just didn't understand why they would change the character like that. Like, it didn't make sense. Like, what does the change like serve for the plot or like the show? It just feels like, how do we make him different? Well, he's always been skinny, so let's make him chubby. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't feel like it was adding too much to the character. I mean, it doesn't really take anything away because he's just kind of the butler. But I mean, if you really know Alfred, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you may be throwing hands, you gotta move around. I'm just saying. It just didn't. It was just like, why? I don't understand. But anyways, someone is targeting Thorne. All right. Alfred says that there must be a crime boss that we don't know about. So apparently Penguin is also kind of new to this. All right. So this is, again, kind of very like year 1 vibes of this whole thing. And he's like, if this keeps going on, this will be an all-out gang war. And Batman's like, I know where to look. I'm going to go to the police precinct. And then Alfred's like, the police. And he's like, come on, Alfred, it's corrupt. Everyone's corrupt. Why are you surprised? I gotta go. So he goes. We cut to the courthouse. This is where we meet Barbara Gordon for the first time. Barbara is black. And listen, I love representation. I'm Latino, all right? But I was like, why is Barbara black? What are we adding other than simply... I am someone who isn't truly a fan of like race swapping characters, just because when it comes to comic books specifically, or like, things from comic books, there are just so many characters that never get used, and you could always make new characters, just like, the way that Harley Quinn was actually an original character, that I'm like, why are we just like race swapping in order to like have people feel more included? It's just like, I feel like there's better solutions is the short answer. But anyways, she is she's a lawyer. She is defending her client. Her client is a kid, and she's like, listen, he just took the wrong job from the wrong people, and he's a good kid. And the judge is like, all right, everybody, let's go to recess. We'll let the jury do their thing and see what they decide. We meet Harvey Dent for the first time. Right off the bat, this dude is a complete asshole, and I do not like him in any way, shape, or form. He's like, oh, the jury's eating out of my hand. This kid should have snitched on his bosses. Like, he's definitely gonna, go to jail. It is implied that Harvey made Barbara's key witness disappear. And she's like, listen, you're only doing this for your ad campaign because we find out that Dent is running for mayor. And he's like, all right, listen, heads or tails for your client's life. And she's like, I'm not going to bet someone's life on a game of a coin. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Well, she doesn't say that, but basically. And then he's like, but look, you won. And you see, like, he has the double-sided, where it's heads on both sides. Again, this version of Harvey Dent is just the absolute worst. And I'm like, I can't wait for you to get burned. But that's just me because I'm crazy. So we go on to the police precinct. This is where Batman sneaks in. Again, we're getting more of that detective noir feel of him, like, what's the word I'm looking for? He's opening up the file cabinet. He's like breaking into it, getting the file. He grabs the file and sees that one of the detectives, Wilford Lee, has been the one that's kind of covering up these explosions. So, time to go visit him and see what's up. We see Wilford walk out of a bar drunk. He drops his toupee. He goes to pick it up, but Batman strings him up and hovers him over some train tracks as the train is coming. He's like, who do you work for? And the guy's like, I'm not going to tell you. He's like, who you work for? And the train is just coming along. And at the last second, he goes, I work for the Penguin. And Batman pulls him right up. So again, this is that year 1 Batman, like, I might actually let you die. Like, they won't show it, but I might actually let you die. So you gotta watch out for Batman. He leaves him on the rooftop, and he's like, listen, if you're lying, I'll be back. and the guy just like doesn't know what to do with himself. We move on to this yacht called the Iceberg Lounge. We find out that Penguin is a woman. So I actually watched this episode twice. And the first time I thought that Penguin had showgirls kind of like dancing for him, but like dressed up as him. And then I found out later, like, oh no, that is the Penguin. So the Penguin, Oswalda, is a woman. And again, going back to the Barbara thing. And then at some point we also see that Jim Gordon is also black. So again, going back to the thing I was saying before, like gender swapping and then, or race swapping, but also like gender swapping. I just feel like, what are we really adding to the character? I feel like I'd rather see a character you haven't used before, or create a whole new character with like a similar vibe to, you know, characters that we already know, if you're going to do something new, rather than being like, well, how do we make this new? What if we just take the character and then make them a woman? You know what I mean? I just feel like it's the laziest form of reaching a different demographic. Like, I just think that you either use either make a new character or use someone we haven't seen before. That's the short answer. But I do love the pageantry of her, like, doing her little dance number and, you know, kind of going around and flirting with the detective. She's like, oh, you know, one, you can touch me anytime. The other one's like, what about me? And she's like, no, I wouldn't, like, you know, if you're the last guy on Earth. Penguin walks behind the curtain. There's apparently applause. So they, again, going back to Alfred being like, oh, there's a crime boss and nobody knows. Clearly nobody knows because they're just like, yeah, the dance number, she's cool. We learn that Barbara doesn't want to be there. And, well, she's at the party. She doesn't want to be there. And Commissioner's like, listen, I don't want to be here either, but I can't skip fundraisers. You know, I got to put on the old show for everybody. But hey, as long as we're both miserable, you know what I mean? We're having a good time. Harvey comes over and he says hi. And he's like, if I had it my way, Barbara would be working for me. Also, she is a Spitfire. And Commissioner's like, what the fuck? And he's like, listen, you and me are going to do great things together. And Harvey also kind of implies that Jim gets help from Batman. Barbara's like, I think it's just a rumor. Like, that guy's not even real. She's like, do you leave cookies out for Santa Claus too? So, and then like walks away. So clearly she doesn't like Harvey. Harvey's still an asshole. Get that guy out of here. But we move on to Bruce showing up in the boat. You know, he isn't in the full persona yet, so he's talking to Alfred and he's saying, like, you know, we gotta get this done. Penguin's been hiding here in plain sight. I'm gonna go in there and, you know, see what's up. We see one of Penguin's sons, Ronnie. He walks up to Barbara. He tries to flirt. He's like, you know, us Cobblepots keep it classy. And then he spills cocktail sauce on his shirt. And Barbara's like, you spilled something on his shirt. And then as he looks down and she like tries to play it off, she's already walked away. And he calls her stuck up. And his other brother, Aaron, makes fun of him for it. Bruce shows up and everyone is excited to see him. Aaron goes over and says hi. Bruce instantly forgets his name. He's like, hey, I'm Aaron. He's like, oh, hey, Alan, can you like hold my coat for me? Putting on the act of like this rich guy who like clearly isn't, you know, too down to earth for like the regular people. Harvey comes over and says hi. And Bruce is like, yo, let's go get a drink. So we cut back to Penguin and we see Thorne for the first time that this man keeps talking about. And the two of them are talking. And Penguin's like, I heard that one of your buildings blew up. And she's like, and she like rubs it in. And she's like, it blew up into little itty bitty pieces. And she's like, too bad like you weren't there. And he was like, no, actually I was there. But I got a tip from a little birdie who told me. And he kind of points over to one of her sons. And he's like, you know, a little itty bitty birdie told me. And he walks away, clearly getting the upper hand because she is now pissed that one of her sons has given up the info. But we go back to Bruce and he's telling a joke. And he comically spills his drink all over his shirt. And he's like, oh man, gotta go clean up. So he sneaks downstairs. Time to be Batman. All right. Well, at least mentally. He sneaks into this room and they have like this hole in the floor. Like if it were anywhere else, it would look like a pool. But yeah, he just has, there's this hole in the bottom of the ship. And Penguin and her sons are coming. So he goes to hide. And by going to hide, I mean he jumps straight into the water. But this is where, so he goes into the water, he comes out, he gets to the top of the boat, and he's like, I guess it's not a yacht party if someone doesn't fall over. And Barbara's like, okay, whatever. And then two girls come up to Bruce, and they're like, well, what happened? And he's like, well, I guess it's not a yacht party if someone doesn't fall over. And then they start laughing. And Barbara's like, what the? He used the same joke twice. But hey, Bruce Wayne, you know what I mean? But we go back to Penguin and her sons. Turns out they have been embezzling thousands under everyone's nose through the control of the cops. They've been taking all this money. And she's like, it really is a shame that one of you is a snitch. And the brothers start arguing with each other, like, no, it's you. And she's like, don't worry, I already know who it is. It's Aaron. And Aaron starts to beg for his life. And in the dumbest move, just like a full-on child, he goes, Mama, did you eat at the party? I know sometimes, you get a little dizzy or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you're not helping your case. And Iggy, the bodyguard, takes Aaron, throws him in a trunk, and then pushes him down that hole that looks like a pool right into the ocean. And she goes, oh man, he was my favorite. I guess you're my favorite now, to the other son. It's like, Jesus Christ. We instantly go to Ronnie, who calls up Thorne and asks for help, because he's the one who actually snitched, not Aaron. And Thorne is like, you know what? I just can't have a snitch in my organization because, where's the loyalty if you're so willing to give up your own mom? So he's like, you're kind of on your own. And then he hangs up. Ronnie is absolutely screwed. And this is where we go back to Penguin. And she's like, what do you mean that Ronnie's gone? Like, I can't believe I killed the wrong son. And then Iggy's like, oh, well, you feel bad that you killed, your son or that you have to go after your son now? And she's like, no, I'm afraid that he's going to tell my entire plan. Go get him now. So we go to the courthouse. Barbara's there working late after hours. Who knows why? We see Ronnie's shadow. Barbara grabs a bat. She's ready for action. I'm like, there we go, girl. Opens the door, and then he's there just like, sweetie, are you glad to see me? And it's like, bro, this is not the time. She has a bat. And also, you're in trouble. And she's like, call me that again, and you'll lose your teeth. And he's like, sorry, I need your help. My mom's gonna kill me. She runs the mob. Your dad is actually one of the only good cops, if not the only good cop. So I need to talk to him. So the two of them are driving in Barbara's car, and another car comes and starts bashing, and then they start shooting at them. As things are popping off, Barbara's like, yo, take the wheel. She pops out the window. She pulls out her pistol. She starts blasting. Again, Barbara ready for action. They end up, unfortunately, at a dead end. And Barbara, they're hiding behind the car. Barbara checks her gun. She only got one bullet left. Oh, snap. And right as things look dire, the Batmobile comes by, does a side swipe, knocks them all down. She looks in, she sees Batman, he does a little nod, she nods back, and then he just drives off. And I was like, oh, he's not going to check on them or anything, or not? I guess he got other things to do. But Barbara is absolutely shook because, again, she thought Batman, just like a lot of people, was a rumor. So now that she actually seen him, it's like, oh shit, he's actually a real person. Well, we go to Gordon. Gordon thinks he can protect Ronnie. And which is just like, Gordon, come on, dude. Do you know where you live? But Ronnie's like, half the cops are on the payroll. What are you talking about, my guy? We got to get out of here. And as this conversation is happening, one of the detectives from earlier in the episode is eavesdropping. And he tells the other one, he's like, yo, go make the phone call. We got the son, you know what I mean? And Penguin crashes out because she's just like, he made it to the police and he made it to the one good one. That we have to silence him now. We can't do this quiet. We need to make sure that things get swept under the rug, essentially. Ronnie ends up being like, yeah, my mom's a criminal mastermind. She has been running rings around you guys for a month. And this is where we see that Penguin Penguin is uncovering the fact that she has this why am I blanking right now? I have the notes in front of my head. Basically, she has a military-grade cannon that she's been hiding on the top of her ship, and it has been hidden underneath the umbrella on the top of the yacht. And so Jim calls, he's like, yo, call the Coast Guard to, go get the ship. Barbara pulls the fire alarm. Dozens of... Oh, okay. Pulls the fire alarm. I did not make these notes clear. So Batman is going to stop Penguin. As he's underneath the water in the bat sub, we see dozens of trunks. So clearly she has been pushing people and killing people into the water for a while now. And most of them don't get it out. We actually see a skeleton popping out of one of them. So yeah, once you're in the water, that's kind of it for you. But Batman makes it to that iceberg lounge, so he's on the boat. Penguin is in a rush to like really blast the precinct and make sure that her son doesn't tell anything, but Batman shows up. Batman fights the bodyguard, and this man has no chance really. Batman kicks his ass. As that is happening, Penguin loads up the cannon, and then Batman and Penguin begin to fight. We go back to the precincts real quick, and there's this woman, because everyone's leaving, right? Because Barbara pulled the fire alarm. There's this woman handcuffed to the table, and she's like, hello, can anyone uncuff me? And Barbara comes over, and she's like, what happened? And she's like, the dude just left me here. Can you please let me go? And as she's uncuffing the lady, she looks down at the... She looks down at the name tag, and it's Bullock, so one of the guys from earlier who is one of the cops on the payroll. I assume that'll come up in a later episode. But we go back to the boat. Coast Guard shows up. They're like, yo, pull over. This is, Coast Guard. And Batman gets the upper hand on Penguin. She manages to still pull the trigger before Batman can really, get her down. So everyone gets out of the precinct just in time, even though Penguin loses and gets handcuffed. The building still explodes. As they're getting up from the explosion, everyone's checking on each other. Barbara's like, yo, Dad, I met Batman last night, and you know what? He has a pretty cool car, because he does. And the episode ends on Wayne Manor, where technically, I don't know if it's really the Batcave, but we're in the basement, and Penguin, Batman is talking to Alfred, and they're like, Penguin was keeping Thorne's mob in check, but now that she's off the board, he has more control over all of Gotham. And Batman's like, I failed tonight. I can't let it happen again. So I thought it was interesting to have the episode end on Batman taking an L, even though he technically won the fight against Penguin. Technically he took 2 L's, because 1, the precinct still exploded. And then 2, they're saying that Rupert Thorne has even more control of Gotham. So it's like, damn, this is year 1 Batman. This isn't a Batman who oh, if you gave him prep time, the joke. This is a Batman who's still trying to figure it all out. So to have him lose twice, I was like, oh, cool. I actually really like that. So if it is your first time here, I have a 3-point rating scale. It is 1 and done. Give it a chance, and I'm in. For this first episode, I'm gonna say I would give it a chance. There is nothing in this episode that really made me go damn, I have to watch another one. I think for the main part, what I loved about this was it just felt like more Batman the Animated Series, but it wasn't interesting enough that I would want to watch this more over Batman the Animated Series, just because I grew up with that one and I know what it has to offer. So yeah, it just didn't hit. Again, I think some of the drawbacks are again, what I said, oh, what if we gender swapped and race swapped? And it's well, I already know who Penguin is. So you just making her a woman doesn't really do anything for me. I think the most interesting parts about her character are the fact that she can kill people, air quotes, as in push them in trunks, and she has that cannon and she's actually been blowing up buildings, and she gets the W by blowing up the precinct. Blowing up the precinct, she didn't really get her goal, but you know what I mean. So I'm that's more interesting than you swapping the character around. And again, I think having this early Batman who, Batman's always been violent, but, him hanging the Wilford in front of the train, Batman taking 2 L's that night, him him kind of like sideswiping those guys and then driving away. It's like, I wonder. I don't feel like, you know, I guess the Batman I know would really do that. I mean, he could. It's one of those things of like, he could do it, he might not. I think those things make the show interesting, right? Like the year one of it, the use of violence, but not too violent, right? Is all good. But again, as I'm watching this show, I just think, especially with the art style, that this just makes me want to go back and watch the OG more than this new one. So that's the shortest way to say it. Now, if you are an audio listener only, I am going to be taking a little bit of a hiatus. I'm getting really close to having my YouTube channel sync up with just the audio podcast. So I'm trying to finish those episodes so that I can start releasing things at the same time. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can just like and subscribe because obviously at this point I've already figured that out. But yeah, I'm going to leave it here. I appreciate your time. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.